for joining this evening. I had a wonderful opportunity to sit down and have lunch with Stacy, and we discussed listing presentation and going over her presentation. And you guys, I was just blown away. And I thought, you know what? We can all learn a thing or two and, make our process better. And so when I saw what she had, I thought, we got to get her on a Zoom so she can share. So Stacy is not new to real estate. She's been licensed for 6 years, but she is newer to Best Choice. So she came over last December. And I think, to be honest, the way I look at it, since you came over, she got in the lead pond, got that listing, and I feel like now I see her with a new listing every week. Is what it seems like. It's probably not every week, but
I wish.
she's doing an amazing job with it, and I wanted to make sure that she could share with us. And I think that, we're better together and we can all learn a thing or two to spice up our presentations, get them in a process. And so when I saw what she had, I want to make sure that she brings it to you all. So, all right. So, Stacy, without further ado, I want to go ahead and hand it over to you. And if there is anything that you want to share about yourself, that's perfectly fine. If you want to just get into your presentation, that works as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. First of all, just thank you for the opportunity. I'm really happy to have the chance to share with you guys what I've been doing, especially because I didn't come up with this really much of any of this on my own. It's a compilation of things that I've learned from other agents over the years and just been like slowly crafting this listing process that I now have. So I'm always excited to get to share it and also just learn from others. I'm not going to share a bunch about myself because I'm already worried about fitting this into our time frame. So I'm just going to already go ahead and start my attempt at fumbling into sharing my screen. So just a quick second. Okay, let's see.
There we are. It's coming. There we go.
Okay, can you guys see it? It should say listing presentation on here.
Yes, we see it.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, so what you had asked me to share was my listing presentation, in a sense, like what happens when I go to meet a seller and share, the market analysis and get the listing. I did start this presentation just a few steps ahead of that because I think these are crucial. I wouldn't get to the successful results without these first few things. So I'm just going to whiz through number 1, 2, and 3 here. And then we will officially be at the listing appointment and we'll walk through that together. But this is what we're going to cover today. And this I have saved in a PDF format as well. So Candace can share with you guys. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions or, share if someone wants a template or whatever afterwards. But we'll just jump right in. So we're going to start at what I call a pre-listing interview. And I learned about this through the Ninja Selling Program. So that's where I got this interview. I didn't come up with it myself, although I have changed it to kind of fit myself. So this is at the point which I have got a new prospective seller. So whether it's someone I know or I've gotten a referral, and I'm having that first initial phone call with this person. So where I'm going to start with them is with just some forward conversation. In other words, just small talk, get to know you a little bit, just warming them up, warming each other up with some friendly conversation. And then I'm going to say, if it's all right with you, I'd like to ask you a few questions. And then I'm going to set up a time for us to actually meet together at your house. So these questions are just to help me prepare for our meeting and should take about 10 minutes if that's okay with you. And of course, they always say that's perfectly fine. Then I go through these questions. You may already have, and many times I already have the answer to a bunch of these questions, especially the personal information. But this is an opportunity for me to jot down these notes, get to know more about these people, and obviously get to know about the property. Over here, number 15, you'll see I've struck a red line through this. That is because I don't often ask these questions about if they're interviewing other brokers. I have on occasion, but I just really don't feel the need. I left it visible because if you feel like that sounds great to you and you would like to ask those questions, I want you to be able to see the entire questionnaire for what it is. I'd love to go over this in detail with anyone anytime, but I'm not really going to do that right now for the sake of time in this meeting. However, I am going to skip down to number 19 and 20, well, really number 20. So once I've asked these questions and we've spent about 10 minutes with them telling me about their home and what their goals are with selling, I'm going to let them know what's happening next. So what's going to happen next is we're going to schedule a time for me to come out to your house, and I'm going to bring a market analysis and share my marketing plan with you. But first, I'm going to, well, so then we'll schedule that, right? So we will coordinate our schedules and figure out what day is going to work for that. And then I let them know that about 1 to 3 days before that appointment, I'm going to drop a pre-listing packet off at their doorstep. So I just give them a heads up about that at that time. And then we will move on to the next step in my process. So next step is the pre-listing packet. Have you ever heard of these or done these, Candace?
No, I saw yours and
Okay.
I've heard of the pre-listing packets, but I don't do it. That's why I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta step my game up.
Well, I learned about this through Ninja as well, and it's changed a lot over time. And so this is what mine looks like. This is not what everyone's needs to look like. And actually on the next slide, I'll break down more what's inside of it. But at any rate, so if time allows, so as often as I possibly can, I'll drop this packet off at my seller's doorstep 1 to 3 days prior to our appointment. And I will just drop it off. I'll snap a picture. These are a couple pictures I've snapped and sent over to a seller. Then I shoot over a text to them. So I don't bother them at this time. I don't knock on their door and try to have a conversation or anything. I don't want to bother them. I just drop it off, snap a pic, send a text and say, hey, I just dropped off this pre-listing packet at your doorstep. If you have time, scan through it, jot down any questions you want to cover when we're together. And I can't wait to see you on whatever day. So in case you're
Nice.
curious, yeah, this box here, I put a note here. I ordered these from uprinting.com and the dimensions are right here for what they are. So what the dimensions I used to create this, in case anybody is wondering. And they come in very handy for a lot of things. So here's what's in the box. So the contents of this package should be a reflection of you and your business. But just to get you started, here are a few staple items to include. And also, just side note, it doesn't need to be this box. It can be anything. It used to be like a paper, like a gift bag, basically. It's been other things, but eventually it became this box. But what I include in there is a listing guide. So you can see that right here. And or my marketing plan. So before I had a full-on listing guide like this, I had a marketing plan that was also really nice. And so if you have something like that, this would be a great addition to the box. A sample purchase and sale agreement, and I put all of the most common addenda in there with it, all stapled together and highlights in different areas. With like Jane Doe and John Doe, and I have like pricing in there, and I want it to, if I'm being honest, look as complicated as possible. Reason being, if they have any thought in their mind about selling their home themselves, I want to just scare the crap out of them and show them how much is
That's so
involved.
good.
But also to educate them on, this is something you can expect to see some version of this, and we can talk more about it, when we're together.
Right.
I always include a thank you card and a small gift card in there as well, and a pen for note taking for them. And then you should customize this to whatever to yourself. So for me, like some things that I do that are more customized to myself, like if the family has kids, I have a little stock of Berenstain Bear We're Moving books, whatever that moving book is called.
Oh,
Sometimes I'll put like dog treats in there if they have dogs, or like I usually always put something edible if my kid is having a fundraiser, that candy bar fundraiser, then pretty much everyone can expect to see candy bars in their boxes for like the coming months. But um so yeah, customize it to yourself, but that's kind of just a little guideline for some things to put in there.
that's awesome. And we actually, the nice thing is we have the listing packages too, that you can take
Yes.
those and personalize it, make it your own as well. And actually
Mhm.
we also have the boxes
Oh, wow.
with the big bow on them.
Oh my God. That is
It's
so
not
perfect.
branded for yourself, but it's,
Yeah.
big black box, and those can be purchased as well from the offices. So
Awesome. So yeah, that was the next thing I was going to say is if so I didn't know about the box, so that is fantastic. Um, but the guides, I know that Best Choice has guides. So if you
Mhm.
don't have a guide for yourself, that's a great place to start.
Right.
So this is just like a quick throw out of a handful of pages that are in my guide. But your guide should be basically showcasing your value on every single page. You just want to be just like throwing value, your value at this seller, just every time they turn the page. Um, and if you don't have a listing guide yet, you can also just start with creating some great handouts and work your way into a guide. You could use the Best Choice guide and then add some customized like handouts that speak directly to your business or your process as well. There are just so many ways to do it.
Right.
Okay, so now we're at the actual listing appointment. So I'm arriving to the listing appointment. This has hopefully been a couple of days since they received that pre-listing packet. So the hope is that they have looked at that, right? And
Right.
looked at the contents of that so that they can uh, kind of have some expectations and also maybe already have some questions for me and maybe already have some questions answered. So but here is just what I bring to an appointment. For myself, I bring a notebook and a pen for note taking and also a planner or calendar. And I am literally so in love with this black
Mhm.
portfolio notebook that I got from you guys after my first closing. So that's what I bring. So thank you for that, by the way. And for the client, I bring a folder, just a regular plain gray folder. Best Choice. I spied some awesome folders in the Sumner office the last time I was there. And I know that Best Choice has some pretty snazzy folders available if anyone wants to use those as well. But what I have is just these plain gray folders that I have a sticker with my logo I smack on the front of it. And then inside, I will have their market analysis, net proceeds sheets at low, mid, and high estimates, a listing agreement, samples of my past marketing. So I always hold on to some extras of my open house or just listed flyers so that I can put those in my listing presentations. Um, Also a contractor list. And I don't know, I'm sure
Good
many
idea.
yeah, I'm sure many of you have one of these, but if you don't, I highly recommend creating one. They find this to be very valuable sellers, I find. And so that really adds a lot of value. And it also just shows it it makes you seem seasoned and experienced, like, oh, they've worked with all of these people and the past. And so yeah, that I find that really, I'll be honest, sometimes I include this in the pre-listing packet, but I've usually bring it to the listing appointment because it is so valuable. I don't I want I kind of want to be at the listing appointment by the time they get this list. um and then I throw in a title and escrow seller guide just to kind of fluff it up. So that's what I bring. Candace, if you have any questions or, you can interject and I'll,
No, I think the contractor list is big. I think that's a good thing. And I feel like it's a good opportunity for you guys to reach out to your sphere and get that list. Sometimes we need to update them, our contractors, but it's a good way, I mean, probably a good thing to do on social media, get a list of contractors and put a nice sheet together. I used to do it, and so it's definitely time. And I know quite often too, we're always trying to find, a new quick, easy handyman, painters, what have you. So great opportunity. I love the contractor list. Absolutely.
and also even just the getting the names for that list, you're on your social media asking for like, hey, I'm looking for a roofer for my cellars. It's just another opportunity to advertise yourself to your sphere as
Exactly.
that you're in real estate. So yeah, and that is how I got some of the names on the list to kind of fill in blanks where I didn't have people. So first things first, when I get to the listing appointment, the first order of business is always the property walkthrough. And typically we'll start outside unless they just are kind of on a mission to guide me to certain things, then I'll just follow along. But at any rate, I have the seller take me on a guided tour of the entire property. I am always sure to compliment every positive attribute that I see in the home. I gave some little examples over here of, what that sounds like coming from me. Reasons for that are a few. Like, first of all, I want to butter them up before I give them any criticism of their
Oh,
house. Um, and also I'm kind of just speaking into existence, like what's to come as far as like I'm speaking as if I'm going to be listing your home, so like
no, definitely. I mean, look at that statement there. You are totally assuming the sale. This bay window brings in so much natural light. We can dress this up and make it beautiful little reading area, reading nook over here. That's totally assume the sell. I love it.
Yeah, we're
Love it,
just
love it.
making plans together. And before people just love being complimented. They love when you compliment their home. And so before you know it, like you're just shooting ideas. And so yeah, absolutely. Uh, just find every good thing you can find. Sometimes there are tons, and sometimes you have to really search.
Researching.
But any home can sell. I always tell myself that it's like, okay, I can sell this. It's yeah. Um, so anyway, take notes on the condition and characteristics of each space with the notebook that you're walking around with. I I always try to find out the type and location of the water heater, the furnace, heating system, crawl space, and electrical panel while we're walking around, obviously for informational purposes. And also, again, like everything I'm doing is like relationship building, rapport building, and also just to show myself as a professional. So, especially if I'm being honest, like being a woman in a business, a lot of times you're going to be getting a tour from um, a man, and I to talk about and ask about things like the furnace, heating system, like the water heater or the electrical panel. I feel like things like that warm them up, like they respect you more if they feel like a little bit about, parts of a
The
home.
house. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So during the walkthrough, I always try to work in questions to learn the following things: the seller's budget for updates and repairs, the seller's ability and or willingness to make repairs, because then I'm making mental notes in my mind of how, when we get to the net proceeds, am I going to be guiding us towards the lower end or the higher end, or like, do I even suggest, here's where we can sell if you do this or that, or do I already know they're not doing this or that? So, so I'm trying to learn these things as we're walking around. And also, how soon do they want to be closed?
Their urgency.
All right. So ultimately, my goals during the initial walkthrough are three things. One, learn the property. Number two, learn your seller's needs, wants, and goals. And number three, build trust. Next up, we're going to do CMA review. So we have a seat, and this is the first thing that we're going to have a look at once we're sitting down. And so, oh, is there an echo? Or
It was, I think it just went away.
okay,
You're fine now.
okay. Interrupt me and just let me know if it's doing that again, and I'll see if I need to move. So I create my CMAs using Cloud CMA, and I have them printed and bound at the UPS store. That's my process. I used to do it differently. I used to just have them stapled. I think there's so many ways, so many good ways to make a CMA, but that is how I make mine now. This over here to the right is an example of the cover letter I include with each CMA. It is a little different with each one, but a lot of this I'm able to keep the same until the market changes. Then I have to kind of change the verbiage, and but I will customize it a little bit for each seller. But key points I want to share in the letter are, first of all, gratitude. They could be talking to anyone. Anyone could be sitting in that chair, but I am, and I'm so grateful for that. So I want to express that first. I give a micro lesson on the market today, set their expectations, and also I work in keywords and phrases that they've hopefully already seen in my guide and that they're going to be hearing from me kind of just repeatedly as I try to sort of hypnotize them with the concept of a couple of things. So like just a couple examples of those words would be like show ready and priced competitively, things like that.
That's good.
So here's some notes on CMA. I say, be sure to include several listing photos from each comparable property. You can use those photos as examples of staging, condition, show readiness, etc. So as we're going through the CMA, I'm able to, like make observations alongside them, like, wow, I can see why this home sold in, was only on market for 4 days as opposed to, 34 days, like the comparable property before, because look at the, look at how show ready it was. And, or, we will look at the price and all of that. So yeah, the pictures really help with setting the seller's expectation for their own home. Other things to point out while reviewing comparable properties would be original list price versus sold price, days on market, HOA dues. All of these things are going to be guiding what the price, price recommendation is going to look like. So I myself tend to give my valuation, aka the estimated list price, in a range. So this is an example of that page in one of my CMAs, and the range that I gave. I find that to be best for me than trying to set an actual price, especially when I haven't seen the house yet in person. Okay, so net proceeds. This comes obviously right after we've completed looking at the market analysis. I actually have these net proceeds sheets in order from lowest to highest and backwards in the gray folder, so they cannot sneak a peek before I want them to see it. And a word of advice, I say most of the time you're printing these net proceeds before you've ever even seen the inside of the home. So do not overshoot on the price, especially in this market, because you are just shooting yourself in the foot.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's so hard right now. Even if you're being wise in your pricing, it's a struggle. But at any rate, I think some agents want to impress the seller with, ooh, I can sell your house for this. And I don't roll like that personally. So
Definitely a lesson learned here, and
yeah,
giving that out before, seeing
sure.
the house and really determining a list
Right.
price. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Even if someone says their house is this, that, and the other, this just happened to me the other day. Actually, the seller told me all about all of her recent updates that she had done to the house, her condo. It was a lot. of upgrades. And I was like, whoo, yes. And, but when I got there, it was like it was like an episode of Hoarders. And she smokes in the condo, and I thought, oh, thank God I did this three three estimates still, because I would have got myself in a predicament for sure. Also, I just note here that this net proceeds review is basically you're giving a light intro into the conversation of compensation with your seller, which can be hard, especially I'll say for newer agents, or even sometimes seasoned agents. But this is where you're getting your first opportunity. You have to put something in there. So typically I will say, we're going to be discussing compensation, and which is a completely negotiable. And I have a little like quick little splurge on that at this point in the process. But I say, for the purposes of just getting this net proceeds together for you, I've inserted these compensations in here for now. At any rate, every title and escrow company has a net proceeds tool. I like to use Fidelity Agent One or Ticor Agent One, which is basically the same tool. I use those for my net proceeds sheets. WFG has them, Chicago has them, they all have them. And I say go with whatever one you like to use for escrow. Then as your escrow closing team, then use their tools. But that's where I got my, where I get my net proceeds sheets from.
Nice.
Okay, up next, this is where the magic happens. This is where I'm gonna reel them in. So for me, it's using my listing guide. For you, it may be using your listing guide if you have one, or if you're going to create one, or sharing your marketing plan, or some really great handouts that you have. But basically, up to this point, we've been talking about them, their house, their plans, their finances. And now we're going to switch gears, and I'm going to tell them all about me, my team, my process, my value. And ultimately, that's all going to be wrapped back around to how this is going to benefit them and sell their home for the highest market value possible. So I'm going to share now just a few key items that you can share in this portion of your presentation that will show your value. And I can see I'm running really low on time, so I'm really going to just whip through this. So I've got a bio page. This just shares about you. I share about my team. And if you don't have a team, and I really truly don't have a team per se, everyone has a team. That's what I'm here to tell you. Everyone has a team. Put Rochelle right here. She's your DB.
Absolutely.
She's your DB and your mentor. So Rochelle goes here. If you use a transaction coordinator, put them here. Staging is a huge part of my process. So Tamara, my preferred stager, who's now also with Best Choice, is, and she's incredible. I have her here. And then you can put whoever you work with on a regular basis here. So, but I say create a team here, and we can talk more about that at another time if you want. I give a quick overview of the selling process, and I'm not even going to go into it because I know I'm out of time.
Okay.
This is a huge part of my my presentation, and I always stop on this page. And this is a picture of a previous listing I had where they didn't take my advice on list price, and also on buyer agent compensation. And it was the hottest time of the market, and 2020, 2021, and the house was gorgeous, and we sat for weeks and had to reduce price. And anyway, I have that picture there strategically. And this is where we have our come to Jesus talk about price. These are some handouts that you can use for prepping your home to sell. And then they have the opportunity to take notes on their own time over here for their own home. This is most useful if they plan to be living in the house while it's being listed. And again,
Nice.
just to reiterate, all of this is just to keep showing your value, your knowledge, and also giving value to them. This is all things they can keep, right? And take notes.
Stacy, I really
Do,
like
so,
the way you kind of have it on 2 pages. I'm even kind of thinking may need to adjust ours a little bit because like preparing the home on one side and then their notes, it's really kind of keeping that seller engaged. Love
Yeah.
that. I think that's a great add-on.
Thank you.
that's what I was gonna say. So this sheet that you give that to them and they're
It is. It's
maybe
actually,
taking notes as
yeah.
uh,
For me, this is in my seller guide, but it's like matte paper, so it's easy for writing on, and it's actually really big. Like this note-taking section is quite large. And then I give them a pen. So yeah, they write all over it. They'll write in it while we're talking, but they'll also just do a lot after we're apart too.
I like that. I really like that.
Gina's got her hand up. Gina, you want to unmute?
Yes, quick question.
Yeah.
Fabulous, by the way. Great
you.
stuff here. The booklet that you're going over right now with the prepping the home and the pre-list to-dos in that booklet, is that the booklet that you left with them beforehand, or is this something different?
It is. I guess I didn't get back to that. Yes. So the day before our actual listing appointment, I will, we probably all send some sort of message or have a phone call just to confirm the appointment we have coming up. I always remind them at that point, like, hey, please be sure to bring that box that I left with your guide and everything to make sure you have that at our appointment so we can go over it together.
Okay, so this is the guide. This
It
is the guide that you left. You're just going over it with them together in person.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay,
So
perfect.
that's my process. And for me, it works because a lot of times they've already gone through all of this on their own. And it kind of speeds up, what we're doing together too. They already have crafted some questions or,
Okay,
whatnot.
just
Yes.
confirming. Great. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Next up, I have this is a
That's a
safety
good one.
checklist essentially. This is not only creating value for them, but it's also covering your behind and best choice. Because so I was doing taking the classes, the credit classes for my license at one of those times, and I saw this scenario about a seller who sued their listing agent's whole office because their home was like burglarized during the listing process, and they were like, well, they were responsible for basically in charge of my house at this time. So this is a safety checklist you're giving them in advance. Not only does it show what you're doing as an agent to protect their home, but you're telling them what they need to be doing. You're laying it out. So no excuses, buddy.
That's a good one too.
So these can also be handouts for me. They're in my guide, but they're just showcasing, again, this should be your process. So staging is a big part of my process. I love and enjoy that, but maybe it's not a part of everybody's, listing process. At any rate, if you have had previous listings, this is where you really throughout the entire guide, but these pages are a perfect place to showcase the best photos from some of your previous listings. So that's what I say here. Showcase your work here. Use photos from previous listings and take a minute to rave about your incredible listing photographer. It's just showing your experience. It's instilling confidence in them when it comes to you and your team. And also if you're a brand new agent and you don't have previous listings to draw from, then there are stock photos on Canva that you can put in here that are just as good. And then as soon as you've got your first listing, you can pop those photos in. So this is where you want to have your marketing plan, right? So, and if you don't have a guide, then really just having a marketing plan that you can share, and that would be what you're going over. Here's just a tiny snippet of mine. Every marketing plan is not the same, and it shouldn't be. So you want to be sure to highlight your process and what makes you unique and valuable to your clients. So just going to keep going because I know I'm low on time. I have a common contingencies page that can also, again, be a handout that just helps educate them on these things. A lot of this is boring to a seller, but again, if anything, it's just showing them how complicated this process really is, but how smart and educated you are and knowledgeable you are as an expert. And so, yeah, depending on their personality type, they will or will not want to look at that, but it will just instill confidence in them. And then I have an inspection page handout that I give as well, just to break that down, because that is something that is most likely in this market they're gonna experience. Okay, so this is the page that they're wanting to get to. They want to talk about this one, and hopefully they've looked at it in advance. For me, this is, just to be clear, this is not for everyone. This isn't for every agent, but this, for me, being like a lifelong people pleaser, has rescued my compensation and helped me to get my what I deserve. So I've created listing packages. And this is the point which I'll have these conversations with the seller. And they've gotten this in advance, so they've been able to look at this already. So a lot of times they've already marked it up and are like, well, you know, and also after we've talked about all these other things, they want so much stuff. They're like, well, I want like the staging, and like, I want my house professionally cleaned, and I want this and that. And so I don't have to like prove my worth or beg for it. They already want it. And I have fluffed up these sections with things that aren't that important, so that if they want a certain, usually 3% is the most common one. If they want some stuff that's over here, but they definitely don't want to pay that, I will cross some things out over here that don't really matter and bump something over, and everybody feels like a winner. So that's what I do. And then I also have an asterisk down here about the buying side. And I emphasize that, no, you know, it's important for them to know the decision is 100% theirs. What compensation they're going to offer to any one of us. But that this is the point which we have those conversations as well. This is for all those friendly folks who say things like, where does all that money go anyways? And we don't usually even talk about this because they've got it ahead of time and they already looked at it, and they're too embarrassed to say any of that to my face usually. Anyways, but this breaks it down and shows them just a typical, like, what does it look like when you know, when you pay compensation, where does that really go? This kind of just gives a sample breakdown. Again, some agents really like this, others do not, and no hard feelings either way. If it's not for you, then just want to share. I'm just sharing my process. I always share client testimonials. And then we get to where we're sitting down with a calendar at this point. I've got the listing agreement pre-filled out. They're either going to be ready to sign it. We're going to make adjustments based on something we've negotiated over the compensation packages, or they want to think on it. And that happens a lot, and it doesn't hurt my feelings. And 99%, if not close to 100% of the time, they do come back and we sign on the dotted line, and it's usually at 3%. So some people just need to feel like they have the freedom to think about it. So I've learned to let them have that. Key takeaways: enter the relationship with gratitude. I just find that first and foremost, I just have always reminding myself of that. There really is kind of an agent on every corner, and they could be talking to any one of them. They're talking to me, and I'm grateful for that. And I want to, you know, I want to go in with a servant mentality with these people. showcase your value and what makes you different, and educate your seller so well that they believe they need to continue to work with you in order to successfully sell their home. Like, you truly are the only option. So that is, and that's the end. And
That's
I'm sorry.
That
amazing.
was really well done, Stacy.
Thank you. I
That's
really
awesome.
tried to whiz through that. I'm sorry.
No,
No,
it's a lot to
That was
cover.
great. That was
Wonderful.
fantastic.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It was great.
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a few
Yes, yes.
questions, Candace. Did you want to go over a
Let's
couple
see.
of the questions?
Yes, I've got a couple of questions here. Let's
I-
see.
Would you like me to get out of the screen sharing?
Can you
Let's
back
see here.
up to your
So-
first couple slides?
Oh, sure. I'm
The,
just
the
a
first one
moment.
that's like the outline probably is what she's wanting.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have the seller pay their own staging cost? And I think I know the answer to that, but that was a question.
Sure. No, I don't. I work that into the compensation. So, and I'll explain why that works for me. I have worked out a fantastic relationship with a stager. I usually partner with her and do the staging together. So the cost for me is a little less. I even will do some full stages on my own. I have pretty close to a full house of staging. So I keep my cost a little lower on that. And so I have that worked into my compensation here. So for me, I feel comfortable if at the end of the day, I'm walking away as if I made around 2.75 compensation. So I have that worked into my packages.
It looks like, is it included? It's in the gold and the platinum package?
Yes, it is. So oftentimes it moves over to the gold when we remove some other things. So yeah.
Awesome. And then let's see here. So that was one question. Let me see what else I've got here. On the comparables, do you print out all of the pictures in full color and do you have a limit of the amount of homes that you're printing?
Oh, sure. So in the CMA, and I only have a picture of the cover here, but this is just one of my more recent market analysis. So it's all in color, and there are color photos of the I definitely want color photos, and as many as I can get in there for the comparable properties so that we can really like look through them. Yeah. What was the other part of that
What's
question?
too many? How many is too much, Stacy?
I definitely want to do 12 to 18 because in the program I use, I don't get to choose which photos they are. And if you only do 12, you end up with like 6 or 8 photos of the front of the house, and that, like you don't even get to the meat of the house. So minimum 12, but for sure like a good 18 photos of each house. And then you had asked how many comparable properties?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So ideally what I have learned, and I'm open to hearing what anyone else thinks here, but what I had learned and what I aim for is to have 3 sold, 3 pending, and 3 active listings, hopefully within a mile and as similar as possible. How often does it get that perfect? Not that often.
No,
So
but
sold
you don't want to go
properties-
crazy. I've seen some, Stacy, that they have like 20, and that's way too
Oh,
many. You
Yeah.
want to keep, you want to keep it to a reasonable, so otherwise you'd be there for another hour,
Printing
going
and
out.
printing for days. Yeah.
yeah, and then the cost of the printing, yeah. So no, sold properties are obviously the most important. The active listings are by far the least important. So because they don't even have a buyer on them yet. So but yeah, if I could include 3 of each, like 3 sold, 3 pending, 3 active, that would be what I do. But I make sure I've got at least 3 sold. So
And then let's see here. How do you handle the difference in staging requirements and costs with your package? For example, a vacant home and a fully lived-in home full of furniture.
oh, sure. So you'll see here a warm-up stage. A warm-up stage is great for an occupied home.
Got it.
I
So
said,
it's like,
yeah,
it's not a full staging, it's like a partial staging kind of with
It
some
is.
of their items. Gotcha.
I
Okay.
have them, what I tell them or suggest that they do is like 75% of the way move out. And I say that in the most friendly way possible, like everything personalized to you. Let's,
Get rid
let's
of
just
it.
put in a box and yeah. And so then we'll put staging uh up on the walls. We'll stage the walls. Depending on if there are pets, other things take place, like possibly rugs and definitely plants, fake plants inside and some plants outside. Yeah, I justify that by I bring them home afterwards. So I get pretty plants for the outside and but yeah, soft stage is like or warm up stage, call it what you want. It's kind of like a half stage of the house and you're not doing the big furniture.
And I think one last question here was about how much does your listing package cost with your comps and once you've got
When you
everything
print
said and
stuff
done,
out,
do you
Stacy,
know
like-
what
Oh,
you're
thank you.
paying for your package?
Okay, so the CMA, so I use the UPS store because I haven't been able to find a better price. If someone knows a better place, I'd love to know. But so I use the UPS store for my CMAs, and if I were paying for them outright each time, it'd be about $11. But I have a copy card there, so I'll buy like 500 or 1,000 copies at a time, color copies, and then like 500 or so black and white copies, and so they just kind of count it off my card and then I just have to pay for the binding and the covers. So then so usually it's like $4 each time I go in for the CMA. The listing guide I order directly off of Canva. It comes out so much better than at the UPS store. So I don't do that there. Yeah.
Gotcha. So about $20 for just the CMA packet all together, getting
Yeah.
that.
It's
Yeah,
well worth it though. I mean,
I
when you
think
think
so
about
too. I mean,
it's just,
I
it just
know
has
we
that
all want to
polished
save
look.
costs, but at the end of the day, I totally agree. Totally agree. Um,
David, you had a question? You had your hand up. Just one, I think we can do one more question if you're
One
okay,
more.
Stacy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just, for anyone else who was on a time restraint, I apologize.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Stacy, for sharing this presentation, your listing presentation, your secrets with us. Appreciate it. How about adjustments? You know, when you're making adjustments for the CMA, do you have a sheet or a guide you use? Are you actually making adjustments? I know some agents, there are some out there that don't really make any adjustments. And if you do make adjustments, what are you using?
Okay, sure. So, I used to make tons of adjustments for every little thing, like, oh, this is a 1.5 bath and the comp is a 1 3/4 bath, and I would make all of these adjustments. Now I mainly make adjustments on pending listings. I try to call the agents, and if they will share with me where they're pending at, then I'll make that adjustment. And you can make that right in Cloud CMA. There's a section in there for, like make adjustments. And so I will make a deduction or addition or whatever, and I will name what it is for, pending at X price. And then otherwise, I don't go in and make like actual adjustments to the value of each comparable property based on other things such as like lot size or bathrooms and whatnot. But what I do is I have that conversation just while I'm with the seller, like, we should definitely note this home here has 2.5 bathrooms. You're sitting at 1 3/4. So that's a difference there. Or like they have all, their kitchen has been remodeled. And they're, they'll just be like, yeah. And then on the valuation page, there's a section where you can right here, suggested list price. I make a note here. So like on this one in particular, this is just one person's. You can put, but this is where I might make notes, and say like the reason for why my valuation looks the way it does. But this one says this suggested list price range is based on the market today. Always do that in caps. When determining this range, I took into account blah, blah, I will continue to pull comparable properties up until list date to ensure best results. So I do always say that as well. But yeah, in here, I might say, also another thing, like when they have an ADU or something, and it's so hard to find comparable properties. Like I'm trying to do one for a place in Lakewood with a little ADU in the back. And I'm like, oh, I can't find anything, So I will probably end up putting notes down here to say, like I'll probably be giving a little higher suggested list price than what some of the comparables, are suggesting or whatnot. I'll make my notes there. I hope
Okay,
So what,
Great,
what
yeah.
I'm hearing from Stacy, David, is to answer your question, you might want to try that, is less is more, for you. That you can, you're a salesperson and, she's not going in and doing as much detail, and look at her, she's got like listing after listing after listing. She's building that relationship and then putting out that note. I love that idea, Stacy. That's a great idea.
Yeah,
So
Rochelle has one, she has a sheet put together, I
Mhm.
believe, don't you, Rochelle, for adjustments? In some cases, you can go with square footage. You're not gonna do the rooms if it's got more rooms.
But if
and do
that's
the
going to
square
prevent you
footage.
from getting the listing, right, David? We just go with it.
No, we're just gonna go for it.
Yeah.
And then Stacy, your range that you have here, the range from 510 to 540,
Uh-huh.
there's a $30,000 range there. What is it? I mean, are you always using like a 30,000 range, or what's your what's behind that?
So no, it's not always a $30,000 range. This was, that
Before.
that particular house was an estate sale. Actually, it's the Edgewood listing, which turned out to be great. But it was an estate sale and I was not sure at all what I was going to be walking into. So, my first time walking into the house is when I'm doing this, right? So I just want to make sure and cover my bases. So I do put a really low, low, because I would rather set them up a little low and then leave them really happily surprised than set their expectations higher and make them mad at me. So
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
thank you.
this
That
is
was awesome.
this is actually being given sometimes before you've even really seen the house, right? So,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it
This is
makes sense
awesome.
to definitely do a range. This was wonderful. And I
A lot
know
of
there was
people
a
ask
few other
questions.
questions.
I think most of
Um,
them, Candace, were just wanting a copy, and we did record this. So
yes,
we'll
it's
post this
recorded.
on our YouTube channel, and we'll do a closed YouTube channel for a bit. But yes, this was wonderful. I think that
That's
you guys
great.
can see some of the pages, and then you might want to rethink what you're presenting. I thought that at least made me want to go refresh my presentation.
Yes,
You
definitely,
inspired me,
definitely.
Stacy, and we appreciate your time too.
Yes,
Oh, my
thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you for inviting me to share.
And if you guys have any further questions, feel free to reach out directly to me or Stacy as well. So thank you.